Hi, this is Mia from Flipboard, and I'm here with Mike Lewis of When to Jump. Welcome, Mike.
Thanks for having me.
So first of all, for people who don't know, can you tell us a little bit about what to jump is all about? When
Yep.
to Jump, sorry.
So when to Jump is a curated community of the ideas, stories, and people around when to leave something comfortable and chase your passion. And we use different mediums to do that. So we have an anchor at whentojump.com. We leverage different social media channels. We have a presence in print and digital media as well.
So can you tell us about your own story?
Yep, so I, out of school, was working in finance at a venture capital firm, and everything was very comfortable and I think safe and secure. And in the back of my head, I had this little voice that reminded me I had a dream. And my dream personally was to leave the corporate world for a bit and travel around the world playing professional squash, which was very random. And I think what was super difficult about it, to be honest, was there was no easy time to go do it. And that was my jump, but I didn't know how to go and do it.
So how did you decide when to do it, and was that scary for you?
Absolutely, and to be honest, When to Jump came out of, this community was started out of that emotional internal battle that I had with myself of saying, okay, if I'm gonna do this, it's gonna be me that pushes me forward. And so the solution in my mind was to hear from others who had left something comfortable, in law or business, public service, and pursued what they were passionate about, whether it was nights and weekends baking or learning a new language or opening a paint store or starting a new company. And I think those stories, to me, would be the proof points I needed to make my jump.
Have you seen patterns in those stories from your community about when or why people decide to make this decision?
Absolutely, and actually one of the learnings that we have is that there's this, what I call jump curve, a best fit line of all the different pieces that come along with making a jump. And what's neat is it's not super prescriptive or very closely defined, but it's a nice way of thinking and digesting how to make a jump, whatever that may be. And so we actually have a book coming out next year, in about a year's time, with Macmillan and other publishers around the world, and it's called When to Jump, If the Job You Have Isn't the Life You Want. And that framework that I just described will actually guide and organize those stories and insights and takeaways as well as my own. And so I think that that's really important because as inspiring as content is today, I think you need to have direction.
Yeah. Sometimes though, the practicalities of daily life make it seem really hard to make the jump. So what would you say to people like that who just feel like there's no way that they could leave a comfortable position?
Absolutely. I think that we have to be realistic, and there are financial concerns that you might have just bought a house or started a family, and so not everyone can jump all the time. And I think that's sometimes tough to realize because in our social media driven society today, it's easy to look at a news feed or Instagram and say, well, maybe I should be in Bali or maybe I should quit my job tomorrow. And I think one of the learnings and the lessons I would impart to our community here is that no jump is made overnight. I think a jump is a series of what I call 10,000 unsexy steps. And so if you can't make your jump now, then take a small step forward, and maybe in a year or 2 years, that becomes more possible.
What have you learned from your community that's had a lasting impact on you?
It's a lot of things. I think that, I've never felt like I'm qualified to tell people how to make their jumps. And so the best part of creating this community that runs throughout the world, and each week we get different submissions from people from all different walks of life, and the book is going to feature a lot of different folks from different demographics and different backgrounds. I think what I take away from that is there's not one way to jump. There's not one goal to have in jumping. We talk to people who have succeeded, we talk to people who have failed, everyone in between. And I think that, to me, what I take away is it's still worth doing.
Yeah, I was going to ask about failure. Like, how do you deal with a failure when you jump?
Yep, so the book's actually going to include a lot of stories on failure because I think it's important to show that it's not so much the outcome, and as cliche as it is to say, it's really the journey in making a jump. And what we found, and the people that I've spoke with, is that it's getting you closer to what you want to be doing. So let's say you want to open a bakery and ultimately you take that jump and the bakery doesn't work. It might actually lead you closer to working in food.
Right.
And that's better than still sitting at your desk wondering if you should be opening a bakery and never doing it.
Right, right. So as you may know, Flipboard is about passion. So how would you describe what your passions are?
I think I'm passionate about storytelling and about bringing really great narratives and individuals together and great ideas. My friends like to tease me. I think I would be described as a big ideas guy. And I think one of my favorite parts of building When to Jump And if you go to our Instagram When to Jump, or Facebook page When to Jump, or even on our website, we have a newsletter, you can just be introduced to people who are sharing their vulnerable stories and hopes and fears and jumps and dreams and goals around doing what they love. So I think my passion is just building that platform for them to speak through. And I think Flipboard's going to be a great outlet for that. And we're really excited to launch our page with you guys.
And where do you get your inspiration?
I think it started with my family. I'm the youngest of 6, and my family moved a few times. My dad has jumped, my siblings have jumped. And I think we're in a time now where you have, firms and brands like Airbnb and the sharing economy, where these stories are actually pretty common if you start looking around. And so I'd say the inspiration's from family, but also from the members of our community and the people using these different tools to take their jumps.
So you've made your jump. What's next?
I think when I close my eyes and think of what When to Jump could be in years going forward, I see there being a few things. One is this book that becomes our toolkit and our kind of confidant for our members. And fortunately, we have distribution that's going to hit all corners of the globe. And then we're going to have a video channel and media series where we can have different types of content through the When to Jump community. And maybe that's on social, maybe that's on our own channels or partnering. And then I think we're going to have this event experience that brings people together in person, because I still think that that's the traditional social network, is getting people together with good food, good music, great stories. We held our first event last month. It was called Jump Club 1. We had Sheryl Sandberg on stage introducing the book with me, talking about the vision. I think we'll see jump clubs in New York and London and Sydney as the book comes out. And then ultimately a member directory where people can say, hey, I'm traveling to Chicago and I want to leave consulting and go into baking, and they can find members in our community and on our directory that can help with leaving consulting or help with getting into baking.
What if you don't really know what your purpose is? How can you find it?
We had a really interesting interview in one of the stories for the book, and it was on someone who said, listen, it's like riding a bike. You can try to pick up a bike and ride it, but chances are you want to learn about the bike, you want to read a little bit about a bike, you want to talk to other people. And so I think having a little bit of a curiosity and starting with saying, well, where am I curious? What am I at some level somewhat interested in is a great way to start, and then you start to unravel, and sooner or later you're riding the bike. So.
Do you have any final words of wisdom?
Like I said, I'm not an expert on this, and I'm not the person that should tell people how to live their lives. I think my words of wisdom would be, if you write down what you're interested in and you whisper it to a friend, and you even having these interviews for me is reaffirming of saying, where am I trying to go? Those are little things that seem kind of cheesy, but the sooner you can start to articulate what it is you like to do in life, I think the faster you'll get there.
That's great. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thanks so much.